In the winter of 1925, a manuscript was released in New York, city that triggered a silent panic among the establishment. The author was an artist named Florence Scovel Shinn. A book was small and pretentious and completely dangerous. It contained a secret so volatile that the rigid institutions of the time did not know how to handle it. They could not legally outlaw it, they could not publicly burn it, so they did something far more effective. They buried it in plain sight. They pushed it into the shadowy corners of the cult. They dismissed it as mere fantasy for the weak-minded. They labeled it New Age nonsense to ensure that serious people would never look at it twice. But why? What were they so terrified of? They were afraid because Florence Scovel Shinn had not written a book about religion. She had written a manual on mechanics. She had cracked the structural code of reality itself. She was proposing a mental technology that completely bypassed the middleman. She threatened the very foundation of hierarchical power if an individual could create spontaneous miracles through a precise scientific application of their own mind. Then that individual no longer needed the institution. They no longer needed the banks. They no longer needed the permission of the ruling class for a century. You have been infected by a lie, a virus of thought broadcast by what Shinn called the mass mind. The mass mind is the collective consciousness of humanity, and it operates on one primary frequency: fear. You are told every single day that life is a battle. You are programmed to believe that you must fight for every scrap of success. You are conditioned to struggle against your neighborhood, to compete for limited resources, and declare your way up a ladder of survival. You are taught that friction is natural. But what if I told you that this struggle is a fabricated illusion? What if I told you that the struggle itself is the exact mechanism that blocks the miracle? The mass mind demands that you, operating entirely within the third dimension, the physical realm of heavy matter, dense problems and logical limitations in the third dimension. If you lack money, you must bleed for it. If you are sick, you must fight the disease. But Shinn discovered that this is a rigged game. Fighting the third dimension with third-dimensional tools is like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. The friction you generate through your worry is the very cement that holds your problems in place. Look at the architecture of your own suffering. When a crisis hits, a financial collapse, a sudden debt, a broken system, what is your immediate response? Your intellect screams it due to panic. Your logic demands that you force a solution. You stay awake at night, calculating, strategizing, and agonizing over variables. You cannot control the hierarchy. Applaud this. They call it being realistic. They call it taking responsibility. But Shinn exposed this for what it truly is: spiritual sabotage. Being realistic in the face of a crisis is nothing more than bowing down to the illusion of lack. Every moment you spend agonizing over a problem, you are feeding it your life force. You are magnifying it density. You are telling the operating system of reality that this obstacle is permanent. This is not a philosophy of passivity. This is a highly active technology. When Shinn spoke of the miraculous, she was not talking about waiting for divine intervention. She was talking about spontaneous, mathematically precise shifts in physical reality. She understood that the imagination is not a harmless playground for daydreams. It is the raw engine of creation. Every time you visualize your fears, you are physically cutting the fabric of your future. You are writing code, and right now the code you are writing is destroying you. The systems of power rely on your continuous output of fear to keep you predictable and contained. As long as you're fighting the external world, you're leaving the internal control room unguarded. But there is a bypass code. There is a specific mechanical operation designed to override the friction of the third dimension. It is a protocol that forces the universe to rearrange itself around your commands without you ever lifting a finger in physical combat. It is the ultimate hack of the human operating system. By the end of this transmission, you will have this exact mechanical operation. I will show you how to rip the controls away from the mask. Mind and initiate spontaneous shifts in your wealth and your reality. You will learn the mental technique that makes you entirely immune to the chaos of the world. But before I give you the code, you must understand the machine. You must understand the great error that is keeping you trapped in the cycle of struggle. Because if you attempt to use this technology while still operating under the old rules, you will not create a miracle. You will create a disaster. Listen closely to understand why your reality is malfunctioning. You must stop treating your mind as a mystical cloud of abstract thoughts and feelings. It is not a cloud. It is a highly structured, rigid, and uncompromising machine. The establishment wants you to believe that consciousness is an untouchable mystery because mysteries cannot be hacked. But Florence Scovel Shinn did not view human consciousness as a mystery. She mapped it as an engine. She saw it divided into 3 specific, deeply specialized departments if you confuse their roles. If you use the wrong department for the wrong task, you do not just experience a run of bad luck. You trigger a catastrophic system failure. Your life becomes a series of endless, exhausting emergencies. You must understand the layout of this machine before you can take back the controls. Let us deconstruct the architecture of your mind. First, we must examine the power plant of the entire operation, the subconscious mind. In this framework, the subconscious is not a dark basement where you store your repressed childhood memories. It is pure steam. It is raw, unadulterated electricity. It possesses immense world-bending, reality-altering power, but it has one fatal flaw. It is completely blind. Shinn called the subconscious a faithful servant, but a terrible master. I want you to truly think about the mechanical horror of that statement. A faithful servant with infinite universe, shaping power but absolutely zero sense of humor. It has no inductive reasoning. It cannot filter your request. It simply executes the code you feed it relentlessly and without a single moment of hesitation. If you walk around your house, repeating "I'm always broke" or "I'm terrified of losing my job," the subconscious mind does not pause to comfort you. It does not analyze the economic climate to see if your fear is justified. It simply interprets your terror as a direct, unyielding order. It reads the code and says, "Understood, the master desires poverty, the master desires the experience of unemployment," and it will violently manipulate space, time, and circumstance to ensure your worst fears materialize right in front of your eyes. It will make sure your car breaks down on the exact day your rent is due. It will make sure the client pulls out of the deal at the very last second. Right now, for the vast majority of you watching this transmission, your servant has become your master. Your unhealed traumas, your daily doubts, and your heavy programming from the mass mind are sitting at the control panel, wildly pulling the levers, and your subconscious is faithfully manufacturing a daily life of crushing limitation. It is doing exactly what you are telling it to do through your panic. The second department of this machine is the conscious mind. This is the intellect. It is the part of you that is awake right now, listening to the sound of my voice. It is the reasoning mind, the cold analyst, the part of you that deal strictly in fact, figures, and whatever it can physically verify with the 5 senses. The conscious mind sees life exactly as it appears to be in the dent-heavy, the dimension. It calculates the odds. It looks at the bank account balance, the intellective, at its core a biological survival tool. It was designed thousands of years ago to keep you from walking off a cliff or getting eaten by a predator. It was built to spot danger. It was built to keep you safe, not to make you miraculous. The conscious mind is the ultimate gatekeeper. It stands at the door of your reality, checking the credentials of every possibility. And if a solution defies logic, the intellect violently turns it away. It refuses to let the miracle through the door. But there is a third department. This is the department the 1920s establishment desperately wanted to keep hidden from the public. This is the superconscious mind within your superconscious. There is a flawless, uncorrupted blueprint for your existence. Shin called this the divine design. There is a specific mathematical coordinate within your superconscious where there is a flawless, uncorrupted blueprint for your existence. Shin called this the divine design. There is a specific mathematical coordinate within your superconscious where your mountain of debt is already paid in full. There is a coordinate where your failing health is fully restored, the vibrant energy where your broken relationships are completely harmonious. It is a concurrent frequency. It is superimposed over your current physical reality vibrating right now in this exact second. It is a parallel broadcast. The superconscious is constantly attempting to transmit the exact instructions you need because your machine is suffering from a massive psychological short circuit. The gatekeeper has gone rogue. The intellect has decided it wants to be the god of your reality. And until you learn how to bypass this malfunctioning firewall, you will remain a prisoner. Let us explore exactly how the intellect destroys the miracle and how you can physically shut it down. We established that the intellect is the malfunctioning gatekeeper. But how does this malfunction physically manifest in your daily life? It manifests as the most dangerous trap in the modern self-help industry. 99% of teachers are leading you into a psychological wood chipper. They tell you to visualize intensely. They tell you to repeat affirmations through grit teeth. They tell you to hustle, to grind, and to force your reality to shift. This is not manifestation. This is mental violence. And it triggers an immediate devastating backlash. When you attempt to force a new reality upon a subconscious mind already saturated with fear, you do not create a miracle, you create a riot. You are taking the crude, heavy hammer of your personal will and violently striking the delicate machinery of the subconscious. Remember, the physics of the machine. The subconscious mind does not understand your words, it understands your underlying vibration. When you use personal will, you are operating from a frequency of desperation. You are staring at an empty bank account and screaming, "I am a millionaire," while every cell in your body is vibrating with the absolute terror of being evicted. This friction creates a catastrophic short circuit. You are pressing the accelerator to the floor while ripping the emergency brake out of the dashboard. This internal war generates what Shin called adverse appearances. The situation actively worse, you lose the job. The debt multiplies, the relationship shatters. You tried to coerce the universe, and the universe responded with more desperation to get what you want. You must stop trying to get it to win the battle. You must stop fighting the enemy. This brings us to the most controversial, the most heavily banned, and the most misunderstood concept in her entire library of work. The law of non-resistance. How do you destroy an enemy? By agreeing with it. The answer defies all human logic, but it is the only way to unlock the miracle. Your logical mind wants to wrestle the problem to the ground, but the universe operates on strict physics. When you push against a physical object, the object pushes back with equal force. When you resist, you are applying massive mental pressure. You are shining a massive spotlight on the problem and declaring to the operating system, "This problem is real." And the faithful servant of the subconscious mind replies, "Understood, it is real. I will lock it in place." Shin established a rule that is absolute. What you resist persists. The technique of non-resistance is a form of psychological jujutsu. It requires you to look the problem dead in the eye and absolutely refuse to give it your energy. You must attain a state of spiritual indifference. Do not confuse this with giving up. Giving up is an act of despair. Non-resistance is an act of supreme chilling confidence. It is the stance of the master who knows the battle is already won. When you stop resisting the evil, you sever the energy cord that feeds it. You literally starve the problem to death. It violates the laws of physics for a structure to stand without a foundation. And your fear is the foundation of your own trouble. This is alchemy. We are talking about the deliberate transmutation of emotional energy. Fear and faith of the exact same electrical current, just flowing in opposite directions. Fear is faith in evil. Faith is the belief in the miraculous. When you practice non-resistance, you are taking the massive voltage you were using to build a nightmare and flipping the polarity to build a miracle. You stand your ground, but you do it from a place of cold, calculated peace. You say none of these things move me, however we have now arrived at the edge of a cliff. I must warn you of a specific lethal danger that arises the exact moment. You stop resisting, you cannot just attach, you need an anchor, we established that. The law of non-resistance create a mental vacuum. You cannot leave the operating system empty. If you do, the mass mind will hack back into your subconscious and crash. The system with new fears, we need a precise mechanism to permanently transfer the weight of your problem. We need the final band protocol to lock the door against the fear forever. Florence Scovel Shinn called this mechanical operation casting the burden. Why is this technique absolutely necessary? Because carrying a burden is a direct violation of spiritual law. Your conscious mind was never designed to carry the heavy load of human existence. It is not built for it. Trying to solve a complex multidimensional problem with your three-dimensional logic is like trying to lift a freight train with a bicycle. You break the machine, you create stress, disease, and catastrophic failure. The miracle only occurs the exact moment you stop trying to be the god of your own reality and start letting the infinite power flow through the machine. But you cannot just drop the burden on the floor and walk away. You must execute a formal transfer. You must physically and mentally move the weight from the department that cannot handle it to the department that has already solved it. This is an act of spiritual delegation, but it requires a highly specific protocol. You must officially evict it from your mind. Step 1 is identification. You must look at the disaster and admit that your intellect has completely failed. This is strategic intelligence. Step 2 is the actual transfer. Shinn provided a specific algorithmic command for this operation. She instructed her students to say out loud, "I cast this burden on the superconscious, and I go free to be loving, harmonious, and happy." The mechanical function remains exactly the same. You are officially commanding your subconscious mind to release the corrupted file. You are looking the faithful servant in the eye and saying, "This disaster is no longer my job." When you speak these words with absolute authority, something physical happens in your brain. The neural pathways of anxiety are violently interrupted. You cut the circuit of worry. You declare the problem solved in the fourth dimension. But here is the critical part where most students fail. You must feel the relief immediately if you speak the words, but still feel the crushing weight in your chest. You have not actually cast the burden, you have only described it. And this brings us to the most incredibly dangerous phase, the time lag in the fourth dimension. The problem is solved instantly, but in the third, there is always a mathematical delay. This is the bridge of faith. Most people cast their burden at 9 o'clock in the morning, and by noon, they have taken it entirely back. Why? Because they looked at the external evidence. They checked their bank account and saw it was still empty. Shinn warns us with absolute severity. When you worry, you have taken the burden back the exact moment you begin to strategize again. You have snatched the problem directly out of the hands of the superconscious mind, and the superconscious immediately steps back and says, as you wish, carry it yourself, and the weight returns to you. 10 times heavier than before. You must walk across this bridge without ever looking down. You must ignore the evidence of your physical senses. You must attain the band mindset. You must be so totally delusional in the eyes of the logical world that you become sane in the eyes of the universe. Finally, I must give you the ultimate war warning. Never talk about your miracle before it has solidified into matter. A steam engine generates power by building intense pressure within a tightly contained vest. If you open the valves and let the steam escape, you have no power left to turn the heavy wheels. Talking about your plans is opening the valve. You are dissipating the immense magnetic force you have built up. Worse, you are inviting their logical skepticism into your subconscious. That doubt becomes a deadly cross-current in your vibration. Keep it secret. We have given you the mechanical blueprint, now you must execute. Florence Scovel Shinn called this final phase spiritual aviation. Most people live their lives crawling on the ground, trapped in the sticky fog of the mass mind. To work the miracle, you must become an aviator. When you successfully cast the burden, you pull the lever and take off. You rise into the clear air of the fourth dimension, where solutions are perfectly visible, but gravity is relentless. The moment you engage in fear, you crash. So here is your ultimatum. Information without execution is spiritual poison. Pick one impossible situation in your life, right? Now the debt, the diagnosis, the enemy for the next 7 days. Apply this law with absolute fanaticism. If you worry for even 5 minutes, you must reset the clock. The wall will crumble. Remember the final decree. The game is not won by the strong. The game is won by the still. The game is won by the still.